The following story has been brought to you by StoriesToInspire.org.
This fabulous story about the significance of Haftarahs. And this was told Shabbos Shuvah. Of course, Shabbos Shuvah, again, it's called after the Haftarah Shuvah Yisrael, and that's between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And this story was told in the Agudah of Avenue L in Brooklyn by Rabbi Yitzchak Izbi, Zechat Tzadik Livracha. And he told this very powerful, meaningful story about Haftarahs. Now, it turned out that there was a fellow, let's call him Avigdor. And this Avigdor and his wife never had no children. He learned in a kollel in Tveria in Eretz Yisrael. And he was getting on in years, and now some of his friends were making bar mitzvahs already, and he had no children. It was very painful for him and his wife. He wasn't a Chassidish fellow. He didn't really go to Rebbes for brachas. He tried different schools. Of course, they tried many, many medical treatments, and nothing seemed to help. And somebody said to him, why don't you go to the Nerelner Rebbe? The Nerelner Rebbe was Rabbi Avram Mordechai Rosenblum from Bnei Brak. They said he was a big Baal Moifes. He was a great person. They said, why don't you get a bracha from him? And that particular summer, when he saw his friends, they were playing already with older children, and he had no children, so he decided he's going to go to the Rebbe. So he goes to the Rebbe, and he breaks down, and he's crying, and he's saying how long he's been married, and he doesn't have children. And the Rebbe said to him, don't forget this was near the end of the summer, and the Rebbe said to him, where are you going to be Rosh Hashanah? Where are you davening Rosh Hashanah? He said, well, I daven in the kollel where I learn in Tveria. He said, why don't you come to Bnei Brak? Come to us. Why don't you daven with us Rosh Hashanah? He said, the first day Rosh Hashanah, the laning is, Vashem poka de Sarah. Hashem remembered Sarah, and she had a child, Yitzchak. And the Haftarah is right from the beginning of Shmuel, where it tells us that Chana, who didn't have children for years, was able to have a child. That's a very special Haftarah. Very special things happen to people with that Haftarah. Why don't you come and join us? Wow, he never thought about that. He never even heard that it's like a skula to get that Haftarah where the Rebbeinu Shalom remembered Chana. Now, he said to the Rebbe, okay, he'll think about it. And he came home and he spoke to his wife. And he said to his wife, I didn't ask the Rebbe if I'm supposed to buy the aliyah or he's going to give me the aliyah. But whatever it is, if it means us having a child, I don't care what it cost. I'll buy it. And sure enough, they rented a place in Bnei Brak. And they were there for Rosh Hashanah. Now, the first night Rosh Hashanah, this Avigdor came into the shul by the Rebbe. There was hundreds and hundreds of Chassidim there. And everybody's going up to the Rebbe to say Lashon HaTorah, to Chosem, Alta L'chaim Tov Shalom. And he's standing off on the side because he's not a regular. He's going to let everybody go up first to the Rebbe. He didn't even know if the Rebbe would remember him. But as he was standing on the side, he sees somebody else that looks pretty much like him, not a Chassidish guy. And he also was standing off to the side. And he goes over to the guy and he says, Shalom Aleichem, my name is Avigdor. What's your name? He said, my name is Yerucham. He said, oh, you're here for Yom Tov? And the fellow said, yeah, the Rebbe told me to come. He said, oh, really? Why did the Rebbe tell you to come? So Yerucham says, I don't have any children. And the Rebbe said, the Haftarah is very special. When Avigdor heard this, his heart fell. He couldn't believe what the Rebbe tells that to everybody. That was the reason he was here, that he should be able to get the Haftarah. He couldn't believe it. This guy Yerucham is thinking he's going to get the Haftarah, so he's going to be able to have the child. They both can't get the same Haftarah. They both can't get the same Aliyah. Nobody said there were two different minyanim there. Like, what's going on? Well, he got online finally, and he said, get Yom Tov to the Rebbe. He didn't want to ask the Rebbe anything. He didn't even know if the Rebbe remembered him. But he couldn't sleep that night. He could not sleep that night. That fellow, Yerucham, is waiting to get after. That's the one that he wanted. That's the one he wanted, that he should be able to have a child. And you know something? The next morning, believe it or not, he didn't daven there. He davened in another shul. He figured, listen, if this Yerucham came to have the aliyah, so he should have a child, I'm not going to take it away from him. And you know something? I spoke to Avigdor's wife. That year, they had a little girl. And when I heard that, I could not believe it. Because I realized the Rebbe said to Avigdor, things can happen because of that aliyah of Chana having a baby. He didn't say he would have the aliyah. Things could happen. And you know something? Avigdor was being tested. And Hashem tested him, and he passed the test. He was ready to give that haftarah to somebody else. And Hashem blessed him with the child. I don't know what happened to the other guy. I spoke, as I said, to Avigdor's wife. She didn't know either. But one thing I do know, they had a little baby girl. Haftarah is special. And I hope that you were able to learn many new things as I did in preparing this. And let's try to be a little bit more careful when they read the Haftarah and the Nevi'im, because it is Musar for all of us. And it's something we should grow from every day.
Enjoyed this story? Come again. Bring a friend. StoriesToInspire.org